Welcome, dear Vaginismus sister, to another question and response session. Now, these are held inside of our private community on Facebook. And the reason we do this is so that we can connect in community and talk about the things that really matter, the things that are on your mind, the questions that you have about your journey of what claiming your sexual liberation actually looks like, and so that you can feel less alone. I remember how isolating Vaginismus was for me back in the day when I found out that my body was putting up a brick wall. My boyfriend and I weren't able to have the sex that I put up here at the top of the hierarchy of what sex is, which in my opinion back then was penis and vagina sex. And when I felt like a total loser and an awful girlfriend in my relationship, I felt really alone. That's why we have these. Now, they're called question and response because you bring me your questions, and I, from my personal experience with my life, as well as supporting women through Vaginismus, provide a response. It is not the answer. In my opinion, I don't think there is one answer that is actually applicable to all of us. That is the key to every lock, because every experience of vaginismus is different and is unique, and we all have different root causes of why we're going through it. But the truth is that the main principles are relevant for each one of us, and however they show up in your life is going to be dependent on your unique situation, but we can all relate to the main threads and themes of overcoming vaginismus. So today I bring you a question that was submitted through my Get in Touch form on my website. And it relates to a topic that we have discussed within our community recently, which is about the challenge of swallowing pills. So I'm going to read it for you. Hi, Katrin. I'm writing to you to get your advice on vaginismus and swallowing pills. I'm 26 years old and I've never been able to swallow a pill, insert a tampon, or have proper sex. Now that I have my own health insurance, I just started seeing a great OB-GYN and pelvic floor PT. I was wondering how you overcame your issue of swallowing pills. I did watch all the videos of you and Dr. Humbert explaining vaginismus and swallowing. I completed a video swallow exam with barium, but structurally everything looks fine. I just have a bad gag reflex. Should I see a speech therapist? I'm not sure how to fix this problem. Is this related to anxiety? Any information you can provide to treat this would be excellent. It's so difficult to find medical professionals who understand and who are willing to help. Happy to address any questions you have. Thank you so much. Beautiful question. And in my response also through email, since I received this question through my website, the first thing that I said was congratulations. Congratulations for setting yourself up with a team to actually be in your corner and to support you in your process by having an OB-GYN and a pelvic floor PT guiding you in the journey of pelvic floor relaxation. Now, we know that the challenge with swallowing pills and vaginismus are incredibly interconnected. And if you are curious about this, and this is kind of the first time you're hearing about it, I do invite you to watch our interview series with Dr. Humbert that exists within our Vaginismus Sisters Facebook group, but also on YouTube. The reason why is that you're going to understand some of the physiological aspects that are relevant here when it comes to the actual swallowing response. And as was shared in the question, there was already an exam that was done to show that there were no structural anomalies, if you want to call them that would have led to the swallow challenge. So it sounds like what you are experiencing is very similar to what I was experiencing. The body literally saying, nope, I don't want this thing down my throat. And if you have swallowing challenges, perhaps they show up as a little bit of anxiety as you're having those pills in your mouth and you're about to take a gulp of water. Maybe no anxiety is present, but what ends up happening is that you swallow the water and the pills remain in your mouth as an attempt of, again, like avoiding that experience because of past painful experiences when you've tried to swallow the pills and it felt like they were just stuck there. They were stuck in your throat, or they kind of got lodged and then were slowly going down, which is a really uncomfortable experience. So how do we overcome swallowing pills? I want to tell you a little bit about the details of how this happened for me, because I was able to swallow pills before I was able to overcome vaginismus. The throat opening happened for me before the pelvis opening. But what's true is that for you, that sequence may happen in the opposite way. The details for my story were that I gave myself a really long period of time of what I have learned in my training with tension and trauma releasing exercises of being a process of titration. So titration is when you dip your toe, you notice that everything there is okay, and then you take your toe out again. Next time you dip a little bit more of that foot, you notice, okay, this feels good, this feels safe, you take it out again, you come back to safety. Titration is a process of slowly training your body, just like we do with overcoming vaginismus in the physical component of the journey with dilating, where we create safety enough for the body to be a yes to some penetration. We have a little bit of penetration, we come back out again. We have a little bit more, we notice that, okay, this is okay as well, we come back out again. Now, this part sounds very simple, but what's underneath the iceberg was all of the preparatory work on an emotional and nervous system level that actually helped for this dipping of the toe to feel safe. Because when I first tried penetrating myself with a dilator, I had not done the foundational work. Trigger warning, I'm about to use the R word here. I felt like I was raping myself, right? All of those components, if done too soon without all of the foundational work, the area of the iceberg underneath the surface, that can actually be re-traumatizing, and it could lead to the deepening of the cycle of pain. So I don't necessarily recommend that you try what I had tried back in the day that actually seemed to work with swallowing pills right away in your journey, and I'm going to explain why. But this is what it kind of looked like for me. I noticed that swallowing a pill was not working. What did I do then? I actually crushed that pill into powder, and I dissolved it in water or whatever I was drinking, juice, and I swallowed it that way. Okay, check mark, success. Little by little, I created small pieces, and I actually swallowed those tiny little pieces one at a time with water. Then in my next swallowing pill experience, just like dipping the toe and coming back out, those pieces became bigger. I created a sense of safety with being able to swallow just a tiny little piece, and then a bigger one, and then a bigger one, up until I trained my body that it was safe for this size of an intruder to actually be entering my body. Because remember, that's exactly what the pill was associated with. It's an intruder, it's an unwelcomed guest. So we're gonna close the door to that, we're gonna tighten, we're gonna close, and it won't be allowed in. But if we create that safety slowly with that experience being registered as safe, being registered as a neutral and pain-free, we can increase our capacity to be able to hold more. In this case, to be able to swallow something a little bit bigger, especially with a bad gag reflex. And I want to kind of invite you to shift the perspective on this a little bit. It is a normal gag reflex that we're just training to be a little bit less sensitive, to be a little bit more inviting and inclusive of more sensation. With the bad gag reflex, what you can do is a similar process of titration, where perhaps you start to train your body of touch on the tongue that starts to feel neutral and normal for you. That might first include touching the tip with your toothbrush after you brush your teeth in the morning, and then a little bit further and a little bit further. And as you create that experience of normalcy, you will find that the gag reflex starts to calm a little bit. It starts to not be online, not be active, just like body responsive vaginismus starts to be less and less active as we go through the journey of overcoming vaginismus by letting this body response be dormant in our body rather than active in our body. So giving the details of that is how, in my journey, I was able to start swallowing pills even before I was able to overcome vaginismus. But let's back up a little. This isn't going to work for everyone. And the reason is that the reason our protective body responses are online in our system, whether it's swallowing pills, whether it's vaginismus, it is because our nervous system is in a state of survival. We've got the fight, flight, and freeze responses, and also fawn, where vaginismus is a freeze response. Our nervous system is acting in a state of freeze at the trigger of some sort of perceived danger. In this case, with swallowing pills, it's that avoidance of the pill. It's that pill being in the mouth that triggers the closing, or even the thought of the pill being in the mouth triggering the closing, just like the thought of penetrative sex being something that's about to happen, triggering the closing of the legs or the tightening of the pelvic floor, where the penis isn't even close to the vaginal opening, or the finger or the speculum is not close to the vaginal opening. So the founding principle here is that unless we start to get our body out of the freeze response, all of these protective body responses are gonna still be active. That means that everything that you are doing, or you as a listener who hasn't asked this question may be doing, related to your vaginismus journey with pelvic floor relaxation, is going to help the swallowing pills challenge, as long as the nervous system is being taken into consideration. As long as we're actually down regulating the nervous system, so all of our pelvic floor relaxation exercises, all of our dilating, all of our titration with touch on the tongue can actually land. Because if we're doing all of those pieces and we haven't done anything to help the nervous system come to a place of safety, a place of calm, for the parasympathetic nervous system to be active rather than the sympathetic all the time. So for this rest and digest state to be a state that we can access, unless we have worked with the nervous system on this level, the strategies, tips, tricks, and guidance that we put in practice are not going to actually be effective, because consistently, no matter what we do, our nervous system is going to say, I'm not letting this in. There's no way I can make progress if I'm still in this state of, I must protect myself. So this is where we have to look. If you are someone who has tried a lot so far in your journey and haven't quite paid attention to the nervous system downregulation just because it wasn't in your awareness, I invite you to set aside, put on pause a lot of what has been frustrating you and look within a nervous system downregulation path first. Now, what this can mean, there's a slew of things that you can do to help downregulate your nervous system. The vagus nerve theory is something that's on a concept level is very relevant here, because the vagus nerve has a lot to do with how our nervous system responds to stimulus. And so downregulating the nervous system can look many different ways. One of the ways that I've been trained in is what's called tension and trauma releasing exercises, TRE for short. And this is the work brought to the world as a bit of a concept of these exercises by Dr. David Berzelli. You're absolutely free to look this up online. And as a facilitator of this work, as a provider of TRE, what I help is to activate the body's inner wisdom and the central nervous system to help us come back to a state of rest and digest, to actually activate the brainstem, which helps the central nervous system to release the physical tension and the emotional tension that's stored in our muscles, in our fascia, and to downregulate the nervous system. It is with this kind of work that we can come to a reset And when we have reset the nervous system, everything else that we do is now actually going to land a little deeper. It's going to be more effective. It's going to feel safer. Our yeses are going to start to bubble up when it comes to our sexual desire, as long as we honor that nervous system downregulation. And when it comes to the yeses bubbling up, also honor our no, the boundaries that we set. And that's a whole other conversation that I believe we've already had in another question and response session. So I hope that gives you a lot to work with. I hope coming back to the principles above anything else, above tactics and tips, you can recognize is the way to go. That's the way that I like to guide in a holistic approach of overcoming vaginismus and being able to swallow pills, lessen the gag reflex, if not take it away whatsoever, so that you don't have that actually, that struggle and that challenge dampen your quality of life. All of those principles are where you want to start, and the nervous system is at the heart of that. Now, the second portion of your question was, should I seek a speech therapist to support me in this? Absolutely. If this feels like the right path, I am a big proponent of having as many people on your support team as possible. The OB-GYN already, the pelvic floor PT, you've already done the test to determine that your swallow is actually working correctly. Perhaps a speech therapist will be able to give you more insight on exactly what you can do related to the gag reflex, and focus on downregulating the nervous system. If you require help and guidance with that, I'm here. I would absolutely be happy to jump on your support team as well, as part of our sexually liberated experience, which has been evolving, and you're going to hear more about that pretty soon, and how you can get involved in chunks of what the sexually liberated journey actually looks like, rather than what has been the case in the past, where it was a 4-month adventure that you sign up for, with potentially also additional support after that if you need more time. But now you're going to get to dive into each module, into each section, whether that's pelvic floor relaxation exercises, emotional healing journey, the nervous system reset, rekindling intimate connection, or pleasant and effective dilating, or the erotic component of it all, where we find more play and pleasure in the bedroom and outside of it. All of those are going to be available in snippets in sections that you can dive into on your own time or live with us, with our community. If you've got any more questions, please look to the question and response post, the most recent one. You can drop your question there so that I can respond to it during next week's Q&R. And as a final piece, I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for actually being here, for listening to this, for taking care of yourself via this community, and in general for showing up for yourself. I know that it has been a roller coaster. It hasn't been easy. It has been the furthest possible from what easy might represent. Vaginismus is an incredibly isolating and private experience in the way that most of us go through it. And I hope that watching this helps you feel less alone and helps you feel supported, helps you have something to work with, a more concrete path to follow. And I feel so grateful that I get to be part of that experience for you. So have a wonderful day and see you next time.